Robots have been a part of cinema since the very beginning. With such a long history, there's a lot of them to take a look at. So today, we're going to look at 52 different robots throughout movies and see, just kind of how they fall when it comes into ranking how cool they actually are. First movie we're going to talk about is Metropolis. We got the robot here. She's looking a lot like C-3PO. So you can definitely see that she's been influential. Sticking a person in a suit to be a robot, it's something that we'd be doing for years and years to come. It's an iconic look. I might just go A tier because I think it gets improved on. Next up, we got somebody you might not consider a robot. It's the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz. If this guy's not a robot though, what is? He doesn't have a heart, right? So he's not organic. He's made of metal. He gets all rusted and everything. He's got an axe. That's a plus. Not necessarily something that a lot of robots have. But I think he's cool. Singing, dancing robot. I think I might be able to put him in B tier. Next up, we got Gort from The Day the Earth Stood Still. This guy he's the muscle, right? He shows up. He's blasting like tanks and everything with his big old laser eye. I like the way that he's got like a visor instead of eyes too. This guy, he's another B tier for me. Next, we find ourselves at Robby the Robot from the Forbidden Planet. He's nice. He's a nice dude. He's helping out. This guy is like the quintessential old-timey robot. And you look at this guy and you're like, yeah, that's what old robots look like. He's got like the spinning dials and everything. I like his arms. like how fat the arms are on it. How impractical it would be as something to actually help you do things. Like this guy falls over. He's not getting back up in real life. I like the dome. In the head, it just kind of feels not human, which I do appreciate. I like this guy a lot. I think I'll put him in A tier. Jaguar showing up next on the list. For a lot of people, you might not be aware of who he is. Let me just tell you, he's the coolest. Jaguar fights alongside Godzilla in Godzilla vs. Megalon. Little kids like him. There's a song that plays when Jaguar is around. I'm going to let it play here for a second. You're going to tell me that guy is not awesome, right? With that song, he can grow and shrink in size. He can fly. I know it might be controversial for some people, but I love Jaguar. I'm putting him in A tier. Next up, we have Mechagodzilla, and this guy is so cool. He disguises himself as Godzilla, kind of like a precursor to the Terminator even, right? Where he's getting pieces of him blown off, and it's like, oh, there's a robot underneath. He shoots like rainbow beams out of his eyes and blow up and stuff. Very cool. He can fly again, like Jaguar. Being able to fly is always bonus points as a robot. For me, Godzilla monster wise, Mechagodzilla is up at the top, so he's got to be at the top of my robot list. Also, he's going in S tier. Now we move on to the Stepford wives, which even kind of mentioning that they're robots is kind of spoiling the movie. It's an older movie, so I don't feel that bad. But yeah, sorry if you were going to watch that movie tonight and you somehow found yourself here getting that ruined for you. Yeah, the ladies in this town are getting replaced by robots, and it's kind of creepy and messed up and bad. The robots themselves aren't the threat in this movie. It's the people who are replacing other people with robots. So it does bump them down a bit for me. I think I'm going to go C tier just because like the phrase Stepford wives is still kind of exists and permeates today. So yeah, C tier. Then we find ourselves with R2-D2 from Star Wars. One of the most iconic things from Star Wars itself. You have Darth Vader's helmet, you've got the Millennium Falcon, and you got R2-D2. Like, I don't know, man. Did Star Wars without R2? Some people might argue not really. It's so crazy how much character comes out of this little guy that has no facial expressions at all, no human-like movements or anything either. It's weird to say that R2-D2 is one of my favorite Star Wars characters, even, but he is for sure. I love his attitude. He's got a lot of spunk. He's definitely a S tier. Now, C-3PO gets no love. I love him. I think he's so funny. I think that Empire Strikes Back is peak C-3PO, but I think we get good stuff from him all over the place. The fact that we get to see his creation back in the prequels, that's pretty cool. Thinking about it, though, R2-D2 is older than C-3PO. I never thought about that before. That's weird. That seems like it should be the opposite. But man, what are you going to do? Anthony Daniels, that poor guy being in the suit all the time. I think he's great. Is an S tier also, without a doubt. Next, we move into kind of another spoiler. Talking about robots. Sorry. But this is for the movie Alien. Ash is a robot. He's kind of a scary robot, right? Because he kind of turns on everybody. He's got a separate mission from the rest of the people on the ship. And he's going to try his best to accomplish that. He's way too fascinated with the alien. It's one of those things when you find out he's a robot, you're like, oh, that makes way more sense than him just being some super weird dude. His blood is like gross, rotten milk, which is disgusting looking, but it's also unique. I like that he's not my favorite in the Alien franchise. We'll get there in a bit, but I think I might put him in C tier. Next up, Blade Runner, another one from Ridley Scott, brings us Roy Batty. This guy is running on a clock that's ticking down, and if he doesn't figure out how to extend his life, then he is going to die. Like, that's just how these androids work. They have a set amount of time before they just kind of turn off. And any other movie, you cast this guy as the good guy, right? His story is compelling, but in Blade Runner, he is the antagonist. He's the bad guy, and I think that's great. He's well developed. You really understand why he's doing what he's doing. And he gets a super good monologue at the end of the movie. Super awesome performance all over, just iconic. I'm going A tier. Now we find ourselves at the T-800 from Terminator. I didn't know which one to kind of land on exactly. We go Arnold from the first one or Arnold from the second one. I'm just going to kind of roll them all into one. I think that it's a great design. How much it looks like a person, but at the same time it doesn't. It's so jacked and huge. It's this really big upper body. The fact that it's got like teeth that look like real teeth also is very unnerving to me. Love the red eyes. Love that they're covered in skin that can get blown off. Anything that can kind of like just show the progression of a movie, like with people getting blown up or things getting blown up. I always like that in movies, and Terminator is just perfect franchise for that. Plus, you add into all of that the character development that Arnold does in T2. It's hard to not put it really, really high. And so I'm going to put it high in S tier. Rocky IV brings us Polly's robot that sings happy birthday to him. That's what we always used to call him at my house, the happy birthday Polly robot. Happy birthday, Polly. This robot's awful. It's a fun. I love it. But at the same time, it's like, they give Polly a robot butler. Sylvester Stallone also doesn't like this thing, which is why he cut it out of his director's cut of Rocky IV. I think it's a shame. I think you should stand by it, but I understand. I think I have to go F tier with the Happy Birthday Polly robot. It's nostalgia is the only thing that would bump it up, and how funny I think it is. It's not. I got to be honest. I got to be true to the list. It's got to go in F tier. Number 5. Johnny 5, right, from Short Circuit, is next up. Gets struck by lightning, and the robot comes alive, and then he's running around trying not to get blown up. He can shoot lasers and everything. Really cool. I love the design on this one. There's so much expression that comes out of its face with all the different flaps and everything that go on in there, just with like the eyebrows and all of that. And the fact that it looks like it could be made out of actual parts too, like it seems feasible, at least in like its construction. Treads also a great look on robots. I love Johnny 5. I love Short Circuit. It's gonna be B tier. Now we get to Aliens, the second movie in the Alien franchise, second robot from the Alien franchise we're gonna talk about. We got Bishop here. I love Bishop as a character, so much better than Ash, trying to be like redeemed, whereas Ash was an evil robot. Bishop is constantly trying to be like, I'm not evil, Ripley. And I think the movie does a great job of kind of showing her eventually coming around to liking him. He does have one of the worst haircuts that I think I've ever seen in a movie that isn't deliberately supposed to be bad, but I think I'm going to let that slide and still put Bishop up in A tier. Talk about C-3PO, you got to talk about Dot Matrix from Spaceballs, the spoof of Star Wars. Joan Rivers is giving the voice of this character, so it's very funny. Joan Rivers, very funny lady. Obviously, the design is a joke, right? Wearing like a skirt and everything, and the hair like on a robot. It's very funny, but I don't know. It's not doing much for me. Whenever I think about Spaceballs, Dot Matrix is not one of the top things that comes to mind. I think I might have to put her in D tier. Then we get the Fix-Its from the movie Batteries Not Included. These guys are fun, right? They're just fun floating around, little flying saucer guys helping out old people and these other people who live in this building. I like their design because of how simple it is. Like, they have big eyes, right? I think that if this movie came out today with a bunch of these robots, these guys would be all over everything. They'd give Minions a run for their money. You know, that's what I'm talking about. They got great design, but the movie, you know, it's not too memorable. I don't know. I think I might put these ones in C tier. Robocop is the next one on the list, and this was a hot button issue. I had to go to my buddies and be like, okay, do I put Robocop on this list? Because Robocop's a cyborg, right? He's part person, part robot. The whole movie's about him like kind of overcoming and figuring out what he is. And at the end of the movie, he says he's Alex Murphy. He doesn't say he's Robocop, but he is still kind of working around the parameters that like the company has put on him, like programming wise. And so because of the programming, I'm okay with him landing on the list here. Robocop is no nonsense. He's a dead shot, man. He just hit anything from a mile away. The look is fantastic. He's got the super cool visor look, but then even when you take off the helmet and you can see like the skin like stretched over his robot face, it's kind of scary. Like, as a kid, you see that, you're like, whoa, that's a little disturbing. And I really, really like that about it. I know Robocop has to be an S tier. So that's where he's going to go. Robocop also brings us Ed 209. It's got those two like arms that are just guns, which just destroy that dude in the conference room. It's definitely not a clip that I can show right here. But that guy gets turned into, I don't know, salsa. Pretty much salsa is a good description of what that guy looks like after he gets done getting shot. I love the sounds that the Ed 209 makes. I love the way it falls when it goes downstairs. I'm going to put it in B tier. Next up, we get to T2 properly, and we talk about the T1000, the liquid metal Terminator. Right when CG was starting to like kind of come into its own, this was a great showcase for that. They do some really cool stuff with practical effects too. I like when he starts to malfunction and he's like kind of starting to not be able to change back all of the way. It's fun when there's a creative bad guy that you just can't kill. And man, this thing is the next level even from the Terminator itself, the T800. Creating blades and everything out of its hands, the way he runs, it's all awesome. And the fact that it looks like a cop too, it's just fantastic. I think A tier is where I'll land with this one. In the movie Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, we get two sets of robots. First off, we'll talk about the evil us's, so evil Bill and Ted. They show up from the future, they kill Bill and Ted, and then they're just kind of jerks from then out. They don't really do anything that's that fun or anything outside of like when they peel their faces off at the very beginning of the movie. I think I'm going to put these guys high D tier. Now the good us's, on the other hand, that Bill and Ted, build with the help of their alien friend Station, who they bring back from the dead in heaven. Movie's wild. You got to watch Bogus Journey. But they build this robot just from parts that they buy at like a hardware store. And I love that they still look like Bill and Ted, so much so that even like they're wearing matching clothes, but their clothes are made out of other things. It's just very funny to me. I love how easily they kill the evil Bill and Ted at the end just by like punching their heads off. It's very, very funny, like anticlimactically funny to me. I just love that movie. It's so good. I'm gonna put these guys up a whole tier from the evil ones. They're going top of C tier. Now Data's showing up here as a movie robot, android, right? And he, of course, originated in Star Trek The Next Generation, the TV show, but he did make his way into quite a few movies. And so, starting in Star Trek Generations, which is why he falls here chronologically, I got to put him on the list. And I like Data as a character. I love that Data wants to know what it's like to be a person and how that's his conflict, especially in First Contact, when the Borg Queen is like, I'll make you a human dude, just do this stuff for me. And he stays true to his friends, and he's a good buddy. I love his hair. I love his eyes. It's gross colored, just unnatural skin color. I love all of it. I think Data's got to be in that A tier. In Austin Powers, the International Man of Mystery, the Fembots are designed to try to kill Austin Powers, right? They can shoot out of their, we'll say, bosoms. They can also spray like sleeping gas out of there too. So they're dangerous, right? But Austin Powers does kill them by just being so groovy and just having such a strong mojo. With that being said, obviously they're a joke. The whole movie's a joke. Very funny joke. I think I'll put these ladies in the C tier. Then we find ourselves at Robot from the movie Lost in Space. Now he's got two versions, one that looks more like the show version of him, but then I'm going to focus in on this movie version of Robot because I think he looks so awesome. I had a toy of this robot as a kid and I played with it all the time. I love the colors on it. Blue and red looks really awesome. I like how he's got extra little arms that he can use on things. He's got those huge cannons. He can get controlled by like Will Robinson also to be blowing up spiders. Just all around very, very fun. Again, he's got some treads. Love me treads on a robot. I'm going to put this guy in B tier. Small Soldiers brings us two different robots I want to talk about. To represent the Gorgonites, we have Archer, the leader of them. If you haven't seen Small Soldiers, it's about little toys that come to life because they have military-grade AI chips put in them. And as ridiculous as that sounds, it definitely seems like something that a company would do and then just be like, oops. And that's kind of what happens in the movie. The company's just like, oops, and then they just pay everybody off. Anyway, Archer is a fun character. When it comes to like being a robot, they play with it a little bit, with it like just kind of how he learns about things, how he doesn't understand stuff. I like that they do get into like how he can't feel the wind, he can't feel anything because of he doesn't have any like sensors or anything like that that are designed to do that. He's just a toy. Archer, he's going to be C tier. But Major Chip Hazard of the Commando Elite, this guy is, I don't know, something special. I think that Tommy Lee Jones voicing him absolutely is a part of it. I think he's got a great design. The fact that you see him, again, start to kind of get burned up and blown apart and everything, I really like that. I could have used an extra stage of it, like where he's even more kind of beaten up and everything, but I do like where they get with it. This guy, he's got to go up a little bit more. I'm going to put him in B tier. Andrew Martin is the name that Robin Williams goes by in the movie Bicentennial Man. Here's the thing. I think that I don't like this design at all. It looks too much like Robin Williams. I think it's unsettling. I do like the fact that the robot has a receding hairline. That's pretty funny to me, and a little collar. The story also doesn't grab me that much. He really wants to be a person and wants to be recognized by the government as a person, and spends a ton of time, lots of years, like getting parts replaced until eventually he can die. And then being able to die makes you a person. And so then there you go. You did it, Bicentennial Man. I feel mean about this one, but I'm gonna go F tier. Now we get to the first robot that's guaranteed to make me cry, and that's the Iron Giant. Vin Diesel, man, when it comes to playing parts where you just have to do the voice of them and it's just a couple words, you're really, really good at that. But it's a really specialized niche, but man, you've got it down. I think the story that he's in, very simple, very well told. The fact that he wants to be Superman, like when he gets to choose who he wants to be and that's who he chooses to be, can't fault the guy for that. Iron Giant, gotta be S tier, gotta be. The Sentinels in the Matrix, there's a couple different robots, I guess you could put in here. If you're talking just artificial intelligence, it'd be different. But talking about actual robots, we'll just count the Sentinels. They have an awesome design. It's not like anything really that we'd seen in live action for sure up until that point. All the little eyes on there, all the scary tentacles and the lasers that they use to be cutting through the ships, how fast they are. I don't even really understand how they fly, but I love it. Just looks so kind of organic, like they are like swimming through the air and everything. It's just all so cool. The only thing that keeps them from being up in like the A tier is the fact that they don't have a personality. I think the design is enough to carry them that far. But if there was like a Sentinel that was nice, am I forgetting something? Is there something like that in the Matrix? Been a little while since I've seen any of them besides the first one. So I'll just say B tier. Speaking of artificial intelligence, we've got AI, artificial intelligence, directed by Steven Spielberg. Haley Joel Osment plays David in that movie. I guess I probably should have talked about Teddy too. Teddy's cool, but we're talking about David. It's a little boy robot. Again, these robots who want to be real people. Why are we making these robots so smart that they want to turn into real people? What are we doing? Why do we want them to? What have we done to them? He eats in one scene and it like messes up his insides. That's something that's always kind of stuck with me as like really disturbing. I don't like how his face looks, everything when he starts to break. I've never really latched onto this character though, so I'm not gonna have any problem putting him down in that D tier. Another character I'm gonna have no problem putting down lower is gonna be the TX from Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines. It just feels like a downgrade, right? It feels like, I don't know, a Terminator that can actively disguise itself just over an actual robot body is worse and harder to kill than the all liquid robot. I'm not going to go F tier with her, but I'm going to go D tier. Let me get to iRobot. One of the most easy to watch movies, in my opinion. It's just kind of like, I don't know, a candy bar. It's just easy. But Sonny is from that. He is a robot who's programmed differently, and he's like got feelings and all of that stuff. Alan Tudyk doing the performance and everything on this guy, which is great. Alan Tudyk's awesome. Shows up on a lot of my tier lists, especially when you talk Disney, he's going to show up. I like the design on these robots. I think it's fun to have a bad guy, not talking about Sonny in particular, but like just the design. It's fun to have robots that you can like just shoot and blow up and they can get grinded up into things. Yeah, I mean, it might not be in the spirit of the source material, but I like him. Overall, I think Sonny's a fun character. I'll go B tier. In The Incredibles, Mr. Incredible fights the Omnidroid. Another great design. The fact it can like turn into a ball and just roll around. This thing's a killing machine, right? Its hands can turn into like helicopter blades and try to slice you up. Syndrome has just been like changing the design over and over and over again so it can become more and more efficient. And by the time we see it, it's really, really good at its job. I love that it's indestructible, so the only way you can punch through it is to use its own arm. Everything about it just leads to like a really cool finale and climax to the movie. So I think I'm going to go C tier with it because, again, it's pretty simple looking, but I do really enjoy it. Now we got a couple Transformers to talk about. Got to talk about Bumblebee first, in my opinion, because really, as much as Optimus Prime is the main guy in the movies, at least that first one, and then in the one that's called Bumblebee, Bumblebee is the main character, like the main Transformer. He's got the fun thing where he talks with the radio, which they liked so much they retconned him getting fixed at the end of the first movie so that he could still do it later on. I do like it when his design looks a little bit simpler than it does in some of the other movies. Overall, I really like Bumblebee. I'm going to go B tier with him. Optimus Prime, the actual head honcho dude of the Autobots. He is also really well designed. I think that, again, that goes back to the toys getting made. He had a good design from the beginning. We're lucky that this guy's on our side, though, because he will just murder anybody who gets in his way. He's just cutthroat. He is definitely out for blood. I do like his design in like the newest Transformers a lot more than some of his designs in the Michael Bay ones because it's simpler. I'll be excited to see what he looks like in Transformers 1 that comes out later this year, the animated version. There's been so many different versions of him animation wise, and so it'll be interesting to see where they kind of land with all that. I think he's just a little bit more iconic than Bumblebee, and so for that reason I'm going to put him in A tier. Now Megatron in the live action movies, I'm not really a fan of. I think he's kind of lame. I think that he gets beat up every single time that he shows up. Like he gets his head like caved in with an axe and he gets his head ripped off. And he just always just like not as cool as I want him to be. I think he's going to be pretty low. Let's go D tier. I'm going D tier. Sorry. Wally's got those treads showing up, so you know he's going right into my heart from the start. Super expressive eyes with like the lenses, which again something I like a lot from Johnny 5. I love his hands, his two little fingers, and he's just maybe the most personality we've seen out of any robot. Love him. Love everything about Wally. He's got to be an S tier. It's no question. Now Eve, I also like a lot, but not as much as Wally. The design's very sleek. Obviously, it's like going for like the more analog versus like what I guess would have been Apple. Like at the time, everything's super sleek and white. Her eyes are digital and everything instead of being the lenses. She's got a lot of firepower though. She can really blow stuff up, and that's always fun. I think I'll go A tier with her because again, robots falling in love. What a beautiful story. Now, a movie that I think a lot of people just completely forget exists is Real Steel. It was pretty much got dubbed the Rock'em Sock'em Robot movie when it came out. It's about robots box now because it's illegal for people to box, probably for good reason, because we like bash each other's brainses. And the good robot is this little plucky guy named Adam. He doesn't talk. He isn't super strong. He can just take punishment, so he gets wailed on. So he's like Rocky, and people love Rocky. Robot Rocky is great. Maybe if Sylvester Stallone would have done the sounds for him, maybe it could have been even higher. It's fun, little movie, but overall I'm like, meh, when it comes to his design. He's stupid like smile from like the way the grate is and everything just is goofy every time I see it. Might go D tier for him. In the movie The Muppets, we get 80s robot, and he's just everything that you love about the 80s. He's got soda from the 80s. He's got music from the 80s. He's got his own like modem built into him. He can drive a car though, which is nice. That's pretty cool. He's always speaking in like 80s slang too, which is pretty funny. This guy is pretty fun. So I think I want to put him kind of high, but not too high. I think I'll go C tier. Almost like in the same kind of lane as 80s Robot, we got Wafflebot. Wafflebot is from Very Harold and Kumar Christmas. There's just something about this little guy that I just really, really like. Like when I saw this movie for the first time this last Christmas, when Wafflebot showed up on screen, I was like, oh, Wafflebot, cool, because he's just in a commercial. But then he just keeps showing up again and again. And every time he shows up, me and my wife are both like, it's Wafflebot. And I couldn't help but be excited about it. And I think that speaks to him. The guy hates pancakes, right? And he is pretty deadly, too. He's got like hot syrup he can spray out at people. And then he's just a true friend. A true friend. Wafflebot, he gets to go and be in that B tier for me. I love Wafflebot. Now, I don't know if there's a robot that I've ever loved to hate more than David from Prometheus and Alien Covenant. I mean, this guy sucks. But in a way, you're supposed to feel like he sucks. He's the bad guy. He is out to get what he wants, and he's going to manipulate people, and he's going to do awful things and not care about the consequences for anybody else because it just doesn't matter to him. Remember when Michael Fassbender was just in everything and just great in everything? That was a cool couple of years. Like, I wish I saw him in more stuff nowadays. Even for people who didn't really like Prometheus, like it's hard to deny, like, oh yeah, Michael Fassbender, he's doing great. David is a very compelling character. I remember hearing tons of reviews talking about that as people just dogged on Prometheus. So I think I might put this guy like all the way up in A tier. I really do like him. I don't think we're ever going to get to see what happens next in that story, which is too bad. Would be interested in see where it was going to go after Alien Covenant, and to see what David was going to get up to next. But maybe we're better off without it. Disney's at it again, bringing us super lovable robots with Baymax. This guy's big, probably the most huggable robot on the list. He's a big balloon, so he's nice and cuddly. Super simple face. Doesn't show a ton of emotion, but still gets emotion out of you, right? This is another one of those robots going to make me cry. He's got catchphrases that have stuck around for people. That's got to give him some points. I think Baymax is going to work his way all the way up into the A tier. Now, Interstellar was my big blind spot on Christopher Nolan until I was preparing for this list. I knew I needed to watch it so I could see TARS. And Case, really, which I hadn't heard people talk about as much, but TARS really is just stealing the show. With his humor rating, talking about how much it's turned up and everything, and honesty, and just how much the interactions between him and the people just feel, I don't know, genuine. They feel realistic. Like the way that they talk to TARS, they talk to him and Case in ways where it's just like, yeah, that's how I talk to the Alexa. And if the Alexa was smarter, I probably would talk differently to it. And that's how they talk. They tell it to turn down its settings and everything without being too much about it. But every once in a while, you catch yourself, talking to it like it's a real person. And so I don't know. I just really like how that, that comes across. Character-wise and voice-wise, it's super good. The design on it also being so different is really fun. I like how it can do pretty much anything, even though you look at it at first and you're like, it's just a big rectangle. How is it going to be able to do anything? But how it can move and manipulate all its different parts, again, is just really unique and really cool. Tars has got to be an A tier for me, at least. And I think A tier is as high as I'm going to be able to get him. In the movie Ex Machina, Ava is the robot that we're hanging out with the most. She's the one we'll focus in on. And I just feel bad for her, right? And she ends up doing some things that, I mean, you could classify as bad, right? And it's up in the air as to like how much she's been in control and been manipulating things, which is, good that the movie can do that and make it so it's not just a flat out. Even though for some people it feels like it's flat out telling you like this is what's going on. She's really complex, and I think that that's something that not all of the robots do. In fact, a lot of the robots are pretty simple in what they are aiming to achieve, but I think that she does a really good job at that. We put her in the B tier. Chappie is a frustrating movie, right? It's not great. Chappie himself, also not great. He's like a little kid getting influenced by the wrong people, and you see just how much that influence just drives them to be extremely frustrating and annoying to hear. I don't really want to focus on him too much. I'm going to put him in the D tier. Finally work our way up to Ultron. Created by some of our good guys. He goes crazy. Of course, you don't blame him, right? He sees what people are capable of, and he's like, I'm just going to get rid of everybody. I love his voice. James Spader is awesome. It's just a shame, really, that we only get him in one movie. And he's only come back in like What Ifs and everything, which is cool and all, but not exactly the same. It'd be awesome if they brought Ultron back at some point. I feel like that could be an easy way to get some people excited about some MCU stuff. As a robot in the movies, Ultron is C tier. Wafflebot, hilarious. Now, Vision is what you can get when you get more time to develop the character, right? He grows into an actual full-fledged, interesting character to watch. He's fun in Age of Ultron when he first shows up, doing things like lifting the hammer, really being childlike in his understanding of things, having some of my favorite lines in the entire MCU. But by the end of it, we get into Avengers Infinity War, get into WandaVision. He's very, very deep, very complex. As much as MCU characters get to be. I like the time that they give him to change. I really like his look, especially like his red face. It's just very weird. And I think that a robot looking weird instead of trying to look just like a person is cool. Even though he does look like a person, sometimes we go to like holographic and everything. But when he's fighting crime, he always looks like Vision. I'm putting him in A tier. Easily. Hey, look, it's Alan Tudyk again. Now he's K2SO from Rogue One, a Star Wars story. I love how oblong he is. His body's kind of short, super long legs, long arms. It makes sense to make a robot be in proportions different to humans so they can do other things better than we can. Very funny. I think he's got some really good lines. I think I'm going to get this guy up into that A tier. Not quite enough to go S tier, like really close. Like I was really thinking about it for a second, but I think A tier is high as I'm going to go with him. Now, the movie Alita Battle Angel, I don't think enough people saw because it was actually pretty cool. And I think that the character of Alita, even though she's the, run-of-the-mill, wiped memory, I'm actually a killing machine kind of story that we've seen a bunch, I think it works. And I think it plays out in a way that's interesting, even if it's a story that you're really kind of familiar with, and just like in how it's been in movies and TV and books and video games for years and years and years and years. I'm always excited when news pops up that they're still working on getting the next one put out, and I will continue to be excited about that. I think if you haven't seen Alita Battle Angel and you like anime or just action movies in general, sci-fi, you should give it a watch. I think it's a pretty good time. That being said, I think she's solid B tier, and so that's where she's gonna go. And then finally, the Palmax robots from the Mitchells versus the Machines, specifically Eric and Deborahbot 5000, which are the robots that become friends / I guess family of the Mitchells. The robot design in general is cool. It falls in line kind of with those iRobot guys. They can fly. which again, like I said, is always going to be good for your robot design. If you can fly, I'm going to want to bump you up a bit. But what really sells these characters to me is just how much they love their surrogate family. And the funny thing for me with them is their faces. I love their drawn on faces and how those kind of change as the movie goes on. It's just really good stuff. I think that, again, I know a lot of people saw this movie, but I don't think enough people saw this movie. Mitchell's versus the Machines is so good. Check it out. It's on Netflix. Give it a look. These guys, they got to be in that B tier as well. And that's going to finish up the tier list. So let me know, what do you think? Out of these 52 robots, who's the best one? Did I forget a robot? Did I not put somebody on this list that I should have? I'm already know BB-8's not on there. People are probably going to say something about that. Whatever. BB-8's fine. Now, if you have an idea for a future video, let me know. I'd be happy to take ideas. I'm always looking for new ones. I've got some things coming out real soon. A Disney villain song tier list will be here soon. But if you liked this video, and in fact, liked some of the guys on here, like maybe Jaguar or Mechagodzilla, why don't you check out my tier list ranking the Godzilla monsters. That's a pretty old one. My background and everything was a lot different than it is now, but you know, it is a pretty good time. So I want you to check out that video, or maybe some of the other videos that kind of line up with the things that you enjoy here on the channel. Always looking to be able to just kind of grow the audience so we can just put out more and more stuff. And so yeah, thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Appreciate a like on the video if you did enjoy it as well. And so we'll see you next time, and until then, you take care. Bye.